I never imagined that embarrassment could be so elegantly served with silk and champagne. There I was, seated in the third row at my sister's wedding, the only formal attire I possessed clinging to me as I attempted to fade into a gathering of individuals who seemed far too refined and perfect. Next to me sat my son Luca, his legs swinging playfully beneath the table, dressed in a little suit that cost me 2 paychecks. He beamed with pride, believing this day would reconnect us with the family. Perhaps I hoped for that as well. Vivian, my sister, glided through the celebration as if she were a film star. She always had that magnetic presence. Stunning, captivating, cherished by everyone, especially our mother. She received the accolades. I faced the comparisons. She enjoyed the spotlight while I became accustomed to existing in its shadows. Nonetheless, I came. I smiled. I cheered when they shared their kiss. I managed to keep my composure when others remarked, "And you're the older sister? You don't look like you have an 8-year-old." Then it was time for the speeches. The groom's best friend was up first, sharing mildly amusing stories that brought light laughter. Next was Vivian's turn. I anticipated something heartfelt, perhaps about love or our shared childhood. I even raised my glass, filled with hope. I should have anticipated otherwise. With her crystal flute raised, she beamed at the audience. "Thank you all for being here," she began, radiating warmth. "It truly means everything to have your support. And now, I want to say something special about my big sister." I turned to Luca, grinning at him. He beamed back, full of excitement. For a heartbeat, I thought she might finally say something nice. Vivian continued, "Lara has always been a great example. She's a single mother, resilient, self-sufficient, and evidently not desired by anyone else." Laughter erupted in the room. My stomach turned. I couldn't believe my ears, but her smile suggested she was sharing the funniest joke ever. Some guests looked bewildered, yet most laughed harder, toasting as if it was all in good humor. I felt lost, unsure where to direct my gaze. The pounding of my heart filled my ears. Luca pulled at my sleeve and asked quietly, "Why would she say that? About you, Mama?" Before I could respond, my mother chimed in from her table without missing a beat. "She's a used item, but hey, she still looks pretty good for her age." This laughter was sharper, more cutting. It cut deeper than skin, letting me know everyone now viewed me differently. No longer a guest or family, but rather entertainment, something to be pitied or a source of shame. I felt completely paralyzed. Breathing was a struggle. My cheeks burned, yet I held back the tears, unwilling to let them fall in front of my son or anyone else. Gripping my napkin tightly under the table, my fingers formed a fist around it. I scanned the room, looking for anyone who might offer a glance of sympathy. My grandfather was focused on his plate, my cousin was absorbed in her phone, and even my uncle, who had once said I reminded him of my father who passed away, didn't meet my gaze. Meanwhile, Luca appeared bewildered, his little brows knit, together in confusion and pain. It was that sight that shattered me. It wasn't the mocking words or the laughter. It was the fact that my son, the one I comforted when he scraped his knee and stayed up late helping with homework, was witnessing all this and trying to comprehend why his mother was the target of ridicule from her own family. I yearned to escape. I wanted to take Luca's hand and leave, never looking back. Yet something held me back. The urge to voice my feelings surged within me, to explain that they didn't grasp the weight of what I've endured or overcome. However, my mouth felt parched, and my legs quaked beneath the table. Suddenly, I heard a chair move. Callum, the groom and Vivian's polished fiancé, rose slowly. There was no hint of amusement on his face. He didn't glance at Vivian or anyone else. His gaze locked onto me, and something about his expression caused the entire room to hush. At that moment, I realized something was about to unfold. It wouldn't be a rescue or a confrontation, but rather a moment of reckoning. Part 2. Lara's journey and the ceremony proceeds. Many believe that being the eldest sibling means you should lead and inspire others. However, in my family, I was more of a cautionary tale than a guide. I am Lara, 34 years old, a single mother, and the family's outcast. residing in a modest two-bedroom apartment at the outskirts of town with my son Luca, who's 8. He is the greatest gift in my life, and the reason I return to spaces that once made me feel insignificant. I hold 2 jobs. I serve at a local cafe in the mornings and work at the front desk of a small hotel in the evenings. My life may not be glamorous, but it is mine. Saturday mornings are for making pancakes for Luca. I can sew patches onto his jeans, and he tells me I'm his superhero. That's all the motivation I need to carry on. In my family, being a single mother made me feel like I had failed. My mother, Judith, ensured I felt that way at every family gathering. She prioritizes appearances above all else. This is why she claims that Vivian's wedding represents a second chance for our family's reputation. Vivian, 5 years my junior, is gorgeous and successful, having always received everything with ease while giving the impression that she earned it all. She's considered the favorite, and Judith is infatuated with her. If Vivian sneezed, Mom would rush in with a silk handkerchief. However, when I fell ill, I was told to take vitamins and stop overreacting. Everything shifted when I became pregnant with Luca. At 25, I had just fallen in love with a man who vowed to support me. By the 5th month, he disappeared completely. No message or explanation. He was simply gone. My family didn't inquire or offer their support. Instead, they left me with silence, judgment, and the familiar, "I told you so." Yet, when I held Luca for the first time, all their cruel words faded into mere background noise. Deep down, I still clung to the hope that one day they might recognize me, not just as a single mom, but as a person deserving of love. Perhaps that's why I accepted Vivian's wedding invitation, even though I wasn't included in the bridal party. My name was misspelled on the RSVP card, and I ended up renting a dress and fixing my hair in the bathroom, while Luca practiced his smile in his little tie. I convinced myself this was for closure, that it might be my family's subtle way of reaching out. The location was stunning, adorned with white roses, gold-trimmed tableware, and a string quartet playing softly nearby. Vivian looked as if she stepped out of a bridal magazine, radiating smiles and basking in compliments and camera flashes. When she walked by me, however, her smile dimmed slightly. "You made it," she said, as though my presence was unexpected. Then, glancing down at Luca, she added, "He's getting big." There was no warmth or hug, only casual chat before she returned to the center of attention. My mother didn't even acknowledge me, treating me like one of the waitstaff. But Luca was beaming. To him, the chandelier resembled a spaceship. He whispered that Vivian looked like a princess. Seeing his joy at being there encouraged me to stick around for the reception, despite the familiar feeling of not fitting in weighing heavily on my heart. I discovered table 9 positioned at the back, close to the restrooms. I chuckled inwardly, thinking, how appropriate. We enjoyed our salads, and when Luca got chocolate mousse on his tie, I assisted him with it. I avoided meeting my mother's gaze and tried to block out the whispers of my name that floated across the sound of clinking glasses. As the speeches began, it dawned on me that the evening would not focus on family togetherness or healing. Instead, it would be another opportunity for Vivian to be in the spotlight, while I was about to become the subject of her mockery. Part 3. The Speech and Callum's Intervention. Like many wedding addresses, it commenced with warmth and sweetness, though a tad rehearsed. Vivian rose, her posture flawless, a champagne glass held delicately in her perfectly groomed hand. Her dress sparkled in the reception lighting, and the crowd fell silent in eager anticipation. With a smile, she paused to let everyone settle. "I want to express my gratitude to all of you for being here," she opened. "Today is the happiest day of my life, surrounded by everyone who means the world to me." From the back of the EI table, I tried to reassure myself that I was part of that sentiment. Beside me, Luca perched on the edge of his chair, his excitement turning him into a bundle of energy, captivated by the entire fairy tale setting. Vivian went on to sweetly discuss her new husband, Callum, touching on themes of love, destiny, and timing. I felt myself ease up a bit. Perhaps this speech might not spiral into something hurtful after all. Then she changed her tone. And of course, she said with a mischievous grin, I want to acknowledge my big sister. You've always been such a wonderful role model. All attention shifted towards me, and I straightened up a bit, offering a polite smile. Continuing with a light tone, Vivian stated, She's the bravest woman I know. Raising a child solo, with no husband or partner. Just her and whoever was generous enough to babysit. Laughter erupted from the audience. My stomach nodded. But truly, she added, it's remarkable. How she's handled it all. A single mom, unwelcomed by anyone yet still showing up. Laughter boomed, genuine and unrestrained. I felt the air leave my lungs. My face grew warm, and my hands clutched the napkin in my lap stiffly. I looked at Luca. He wore a frown, bewildered, scanning the room as if to grasp why everyone was laughing. At his mom. The worst moment came next. My mother, Judith, laughed the loudest of all. Leaning toward her companions, she remarked just loud enough for all to hear, She's a used product, but she still cleans up nicely. The room erupted in yet another round of laughter, entirely devoid of compassion. For a brief moment, my vision became unclear. It was akin to being struck, yet I felt no physical contact. Laughter surrounded me as if it were normal, as if ridiculing. A woman who had devoted almost 10 years to raising her son with love and respect was acceptable. It felt as though solitude diminished my worth. I glanced at Luca, who no longer wore a smile. He leaned closer, murmuring, Why did she say that? What does she mean? I longed to respond, but the words escaped me. In that moment, I realized I couldn't shield him from this experience, nor from how our family perceived me. Such hurt cannot be concealed easily. My pulse quickened as I scanned the room for an escape, or someone who might intervene. Perhaps someone who might end this. Yet no one spoke up. A few faces showed discomfort, but they remained silent, focusing on their drinks, plates, or phones instead. Even Grandpa Norman, who fondly called me his little lion during my childhood, avoided meeting my eyes. He was present but emotionally absent, leaving me feeling isolated once again. If it had only been me, I could have handled it. Years of enduring such treatment had thickened my skin. I could have taken Luca's hand and exited quietly, maintaining my dignity. But witnessing the confusion in my son's expression, his struggle to comprehend why the same people who had been celebrating were now laughing at his mother, opened a fissure within me. I stood up, not out of certainty in what I would say or a desire to create a scene, but simply because I needed to escape that room. I craved fresh air, a chance to breathe without suffocating under the weight of shame that they had placed upon me. I pushed my chair back, my hands shaking, when suddenly another chair scraped the floor from the head table. Callum, the groom, rose to his feet. He appeared pale, his jaw clenched. Without asking, he took the microphone from Vivian. Silence enveloped the room. The atmosphere shifted as if the temperature had dropped. Laughter ceased. Whispers faded away. Only stillness remained. I realized that whatever happened next was far from what anyone had anticipated. Callum stood there, one hand on the table, while the other gripped the microphone tightly. His gaze was fixed solely on me, not on Vivian, Judith, or the amused guests, just on me. For a fleeting moment, I wondered if he would make another joke to lighten the mood, to ease the tension with his charm. That would be the usual response in my family. To ignore the awkwardness, brush it aside, label it as humor or tradition. But his reaction was different. No smile graced his face, no laughter escaped his lips. His expression was taut, conveying something beyond mere anger. Perhaps it was disappointment intermingled with deeper emotions. Just as he was about to say something, I pushed my chair back and took hold of Luca's hand. I felt prepared to exit gracefully and quietly. I had no intention of showing them my tears or my vulnerability. I had managed this before. I could certainly do it again. However, as I was about to move away, I heard Callum's voice, steady and calm. Lara, don't leave. That made me stop in my tracks. All eyes shifted to him. Whispers floated through the air like a gentle wind rustling dry leaves. Vivian tensed up. Judith's gaze sharpened. The DJ was about to adjust the volume but halted when Callum lifted a hand. His focus was solely on me. "I can't pretend I'm fine with what just happened," he stated. "I refuse to stand here and let such cruelty be mistaken for humor." The atmosphere in the room tensed. Callum moved away from the table and slowly approached. He wasn't in a hurry. Each step he took felt intentional, as if he was pushing against the heaviness of the moment. Stopping near our table, where Luca, me, and the now unappetizing salad plates sat, he addressed the guests directly. "Over the past year of planning this wedding, I've heard a lot about family," he began. "About loyalty, tradition, and appearances. But what I witnessed just now was not family. It was mockery disguised as celebration." The crowd shifted awkwardly. Some looked towards Judith, while others avoided eye contact by staring at their drinks. Yet silence filled the air. He then faced Vivian. "You ridiculed your sister for being a single mother, for raising a child alone. You laughed, and worse, you made her son witness it." Vivian opened her mouth, but words escaped her. Callum continued without waiting for her reply. "She didn't choose to be in that situation, but she handled it. She came today. She sat in the back, smiled, and brought her son to experience your special day, and you turned it into a joke." I had never seen Vivian appear so small until that very moment. Once again, Callum scanned the room. Lara didn't come here to defend herself. She didn't seek pity. She has never required a platform for her voice. But I cannot remain quiet, because if marrying into a family that treats cruelty as a joke and shame as customary is what lies ahead, then I have to rethink the kind of man I aspire to be. Gasps erupted among the guests. A woman nearby murmured, "Is this for real?" A fork clattered to the floor. Luca's eyes met mine, wide with disbelief. I was stunned, not knowing how to react. My aim for the evening had merely been to endure. I never anticipated someone would stand up for me like this, especially not in front of everyone. Callum glanced down at my son, offering him a gentle nod. "Your mother is the strongest person here," he reminded him. "Always remember that." He took one last look at the crowd. "I believe I've seen enough." With that, he placed the microphone down, walked past Vivian without acknowledging her, and left the room. I stood motionless, gripping Luca's hand tightly. The music remained silent. The onlookers stayed still. It felt as if all the oxygen had vanished from the space. The dream had crumbled, yet, for the first time in ages, I didn't feel shattered. Part 5. The Aftermath and Reclaiming Dignity. As Callum departed the reception hall, it felt like a switch had been flipped. There was no applause or cheering. The only sounds were the faint hum of the air conditioning and the clinking of a single spoon against a glass. The audience remained frozen, their gazes shifting between Vivian, me, and the doorway that Callum had just exited. Vivian, standing at the head table, looked as if she had been struck. Her flawless posture faltered, her shoulders slumped beneath the burden of the moment. She scanned the room, but the expressions facing her had turned somber. Some looked shocked, others embarrassed, and a few even appeared angry, not with Callum, but with her. Judith broke the silence first. She abruptly stood up, her chair screeching loudly across the shiny floor. "What an ungrateful boy," she exclaimed. "He humiliated you in front of everyone. Just like your sister, selfish." Yet her tone, usually powerful, had lost its grip. Her words landed with no impact. I chose silence, feeling no need to react. For the first time, I felt no urge to shrink away from her voice. I glanced at Luca. He looked up at me, uncertain. "Are we leaving?" he asked softly. "Yes, sweetheart," I replied, smoothing his hair back. "We're going home." The air outside felt cool and refreshing. Luca held my hand tightly. "Is the wedding finished?" he asked. I looked down at him and smiled, replying, "Yes, it is. I believe it ended just right." Our drive home was quiet, with the radio turned off. The only sounds were the tires on the road and Luca's fingers tapping gently on the armrest. That night, I tucked him in, kissed his forehead, and stood by his door a bit longer than usual. He did not ask more questions. He didn't need to. Following morning, I woke up to a flurry of missed calls from unknown numbers, including distant relatives and a few wedding guests I hardly recognized. I decided to ignore all of them. Then my phone buzzed with a message from a friend who attended the wedding. Someone has recorded Callum's speech. It's already gotten over 50,000 views on Facebook. You must check the comments. People are defending you. I clicked on the video and listened to Callum's calm, assertive voice addressing the crowd. There I was, captured in a moment, clasping Luca's hand. Supportive remarks flooded the comments. This man is a hero. She deserved so much better. I'm crying as I watch this. And every single mom out there just received some justice. I didn't shed a tear. I didn't smile, either. I simply felt calm, as if something I had been holding inside for years had finally released. That week, Vivian attempted to twist the narrative. She claimed Callum had overreacted, described it as a joke, and insisted that people were overly sensitive. However, the truth had already made its impact, and laughter had vanished. A few days later, I received a small bouquet of wildflowers at my apartment, accompanied by a card that read, "To the Lioness." I didn't need to wonder about the sender. While the wedding hadn't occurred, something more significant had taken place. At last, I wasn't the one burdened with shame. I had no apologies to make. I left that room with my son, my dignity intact, and my head held high. Somewhere out there, someone reminded a crowd, and perhaps the entire internet, what it truly means to be resilient. Part 6, A Fresh Start and Valuable Lessons. It has been 6 months since the wedding that didn't take place. Vivian and Callum have officially broken off their engagement. There were no announcements, no drama, and no follow-up. Just a silent removal of what was meant to be a perfect occasion. Vivian resumed her old social life as if nothing had occurred. The photos from that evening vanished from her profile. She hasn't reached out to me, and I'm not sure I truly expected her to. Judith reached out to me once, not to express regret, but to claim that my lack of laughter had embarrassed the family. I let her speak for half a minute before I mustered the courage to say something I never imagined I'd be able to voice. I'm done being your scapegoat. After that, I hung up. There was no anger or drama. It was straightforward and definitive. I came to understand that I didn't require a grand apology from my family. Their recognition of my worth wasn't necessary for me to see it for myself. I just needed to stop waiting for them to give me the go-ahead. My life didn't change overnight. I still have long work days and often prepare 2 dinners because Luca craves pancakes while I prefer something healthy. However, I carry myself with more confidence now. I'm no longer slouched from years of unvoiced shame. I don't retreat to the back of rooms like I used to. Luca has also evolved. He now poses thoughtful questions about why some people are unkind while others are brave. He describes Callum as if he were a superhero. Sometimes he even pretends to deliver speeches with his action figures, championing those who are less fortunate. Observing him, I understand on a fundamental level that he witnessed something that night that will help shape the man he will be. One who is strong, compassionate, and unafraid to stand up when it matters. While we were brushing our teeth one evening, Luca turned his gaze to mine in the mirror and asked, "Mom, are you still upset about what Aunt Vivian said?" I stopped for a moment and replied, "Not anymore. Why do you ask?" He shrugged, the toothpaste smearing his chin. "Because I think you won, even though it wasn't a fight." This insight lingered with me as he was right. I never shouted or retaliated with insults. I didn't seek retribution or cry in public. I simply stood tall, took my son's hand, and walked away. Surprisingly, someone else chose to show that silence wasn't enough anymore. Callum didn't just defend me. He illustrated for everyone present what true love looks like. Not the kind shown in tuxedos or weddings, but the type that intervenes when someone is being harmed and proclaims, "Not today." If I've taken away anything from this, it's that being alone doesn't mean you aren't valued. Being kind isn't a sign of weakness. And once you reclaim your dignity, it's something that can never be stripped away from you. So, I didn't dance at my sister's wedding. I didn't raise a toast, toss a bouquet, or shed joyful tears beneath twinkling lights. Yet, I departed with something far more significant than approval. I walked away with my head held high, my son beside me, and a profound and quiet conviction that I no longer need to justify myself to anyone. That unexpected closure was precisely what I deserved.